Thanks everyone for joining us tonight to talk about reducing food waste 101. This is part of our series of online interactive workshops on a wide range of environmental issues, and we're thrilled that you could join us. Next slide, please. We're going to cover a couple topics tonight. First, how to define eco-anxiety, what eco-anxiety is, our approach at OneGreenThing to climate action, a little bit about the Service Superpower assessment, about how you can find your unique role in climate action, food waste facts, very top line, and then the top 10 ways to start reducing food waste at your home and in your community. Next slide, please. So eco-anxiety is defined as the chronic fear of environmental doom by the American Psychological Association. And this is actually an issue that's becoming more and more prominent, especially in Generation Z. And that's the generation of kids born from 1997 to about 2010. So that group of young people recently participated in a survey. There were 10,000 folks ages 16 through 25, an international survey, and 47% said that eco-anxiety interfered with their daily life. So almost half. And one in four did not want to have children of their own because they're so worried about the climate crisis specifically. Next slide. So this is where this issue of eco-anxiety is where OneGreenThing comes in. Our movement starts at the intersection of the climate crisis and mental health. And our mission is to tackle this issue of eco-anxiety through joyful daily action to lead to culture change, because we're all individual culture change agents in our families, in our communities, and that culture change is what we need for policy solutions to scale. Our approach is that action helps abate anxiety, connection lessens loneliness, and policy is how we can scale solutions. Next slide, please. So our approach is really based on this idea that environmentalists like me immediately kind of jump into the conversation with a do this, not that approach. And that is important when it comes to individual climate action. But what we forget to ask, and why we start with this question, but most environmentalists like me forget to ask, who are you? Who are you in service? It turns out when we look at the psychology of individual behavior change, people are more likely to change their behavior if they identify as the type of person who would do that type of behavior. So for example, if you like swimming and you want to have a new habit of swimming 3 times a week, if you say, I'm a swimmer, you're more likely to keep up with that habit. And so rather than jumping in right into food waste, we want to just encourage you to start thinking about who are you in service and how you can use your unique talents in the climate movement. Eco-anxiety is a very important indicator to us that this is the most and the biggest challenge that we face globally is climate. And the climate crisis is going to intersect every other issue that we're dealing with. And all of us have a unique role to play to create a healthier, greener future for the next generation. So let's start here, the Service Superpower Assessment. We have 7 service superpowers. The first is the adventurer, which is the hands-on learner who embraces the physicality of the outdoors. The second is the beacon, which is really focused on social justice, very comfortable telling truth to power. The next is the influencer, who shows their concern for others by connecting people to each other, connecting change makers to each other, and they're all about focused on people. Then we have the philanthropist, the giver, who shows their love for others by donating their time, donating their resources, and leveraging their networks for the causes they care about. Then there's the sage, which is focused on the moral connection to climate action and can make that ethical case that we all need to get involved. There's the spark, which is the cheerleader, the +1, the person who is attending this workshop tonight because their friend asked them to, or watching this video on YouTube. Without the cheerleader, without the +1 who's ready to say, I'm in, there is no movement. And then finally, there's the wonk, who can take the technical and data, all of those issues, and translate them in ways that people can understand. So those are the seven service superpowers that you can access and find out on our website, OneGreenThing.org. And then from there, you can download a plan, a 7-day action plan to get started on your journey. Okay, so now we're back to food waste. So food waste contributes 8% of global carbon emissions. And in the United States, Americans throw out about 40% of the food that they buy. So this is an incredible opportunity for you to get engaged in climate action in very simple ways. Next slide, please. So this is why reducing food waste is important. So most people think, well, if I just put my food in the trash, it rots and naturally goes into soil. That's not true. When it goes into a landfill, what happens is that the rotting food actually emits methane. And methane is a potent global greenhouse gas that is 87 times more potent than carbon dioxide. And so being mindful about the foods that you buy and use and how you dispose of them is one of the most powerful actions you can take. Next slide. So the top 10 ways that you can deal with reducing food waste. The first, and this is kind of the least sexy carbon solution you're ever going to hear about, but it's true, is to start with a meal plan. Make a list and plan your meals for the week. Plan how you're going to use leftovers. Maybe if you're going to scramble eggs and you have some left over, you can throw them into a breakfast burrito the next day. Be mindful of how you might want to use beans, for example. You might want to throw them into the soup the next day. There's all kinds of great ways for you to be planning for how you're using those meals. The second is buy only what you need, which is one of these things that a list is really helpful. You also want to look for compostable packaging. This is kind of a challenge because some of the compostable packaging means that it's only compostable in an industrial facility. So you want to try to read the fine print about what the compostable packaging is. And obviously you want to try to avoid plastic. I think we've all seen those crazy images online of like apples and bananas singularly wrapped in plastic. That's where we want to talk to those grocers that we love and care about, that we want to avoid that single-use plastic. And the fourth is to embrace the ugly. So ugly fruit is actually a real issue. A third of all fruits and vegetables actually don't go to market and are often thrown away because they just don't look good. They're not appealing. Maybe it's a bruised banana, or it's a sweet potato that doesn't look quite right, or there's carrots that look kind of funky. These are the perfect opportunities, these ugly fruits. You can actually use them in jams. You can use them in smoothies. You can use them in soup. So try to embrace that ugly fruit. And there's more and more fun businesses that are actually popping up where they buy ugly produce from farmers and make those jams and smoothies. So look for how you can support those ugly fruits businesses in your community, and a CSA, a community supported agriculture, is a great way to connect with those type of businesses. 5, plan for leftover night. Different people have different terms for leftover night. What we do in my family is we called it a fend night, where everyone has to fend for themselves. And then we try to, give a prize, which is basically just a round of applause for who can have the most creative use of their leftovers. Next slide, please. Grow your own. There's all kinds of great resources and websites about how to grow your own container garden. Tomatoes, spices, all kinds of herbs. There's some great opportunities to grow your own. And gardening is also a wonderful way to ease eco-anxiety, but it's a great way too for you to make more healthy choices at home. Use your freezer. So this is, again, as you're planning your meals, think about that. One of the things that I like to say is Tetris the fridge. So in order to make sure you're using the food that you buy, not only do you want to have the list and the plan, but think about having the items that could spoil up close, have them up close and within eyesight, and not stored in the back of your refrigerator, because that's a great way to have them top of mind to make sure you use them. Next is to be mindful of expiration dates. This is where a lot of people get caught up, except for baby formula. except for baby formula, expiration dates are almost always used more as an inventory tool, not a food safety tool. It is an inventory date for grocers to know when the product has arrived and how long the product has been within their facility. So be sure to taste and smell, and don't automatically throw something out because the expiration date has passed. There's also great opportunities, especially if you're having a big party or if you do a lot of shopping at Costco, is to donate excess unopened, prepackaged or prepared food that you have. There's a great opportunity at Feeding America, feedingamerica.com, which is an anti-hunger nonprofit. You can type in your zip code, and through there, you can find out where your closest food bank is that can accept donations. And then finally is composting. And composting is, I think, scary for a lot of people. I was always concerned that I needed to be Laura Ingalls Wilder in order to compost, but it's actually quite simple. What you need to do is have just an appropriate ratio. It's a 2 to 3 ratio where you have your browns and your greens. And your greens are things like plants. It's mostly plant-based. You want to avoid meats or anything with oil in it or dairy, because they can actually attract rodents, but it's mostly your coffee grounds. You can do vegetable scraps, fruit scraps. You can often even do dryer lint, just depending on kind of where you are and what you're using your compost for. You can use clothing scraps as well. There's all kinds of opportunities there for composting. You just want to add a little water and rotate it on a routine basis. The EPA has some terrific resources, and I'll link to a blog that I did, an article I did for Reader's Digest in the notes to this video, so you can see specific directions on composting. There's also incredible businesses popping up too, where that they offer curbside composting, where it takes kind of the thought work and anything that seems like gardening out of it, where they can pick it up at your compost. And more municipalities are actually adopting neighborhood compost. I know in San Francisco, for example, curbside composting is part of just dealing with the waste. The municipal waste company that supports the city provides that as a service. So there's all kinds of opportunities for you to make a significant impact, and food waste is kind of the low-hanging fruit, pardon the pun, but it's a low-hanging opportunity for you to make an impact. Next slide, please. So what now? Please consider engaging in your daily practice of sustainability, what we call a one green thing, just one thing each day that can help the environment, can also bring more joy into your life. It can reduce that anxiety. And most importantly, you are also becoming a cultural change agent. So more and more, we can see that these types of actions are the norm and what people expect. Share your One Green Things on social. At One Green Thing, we also have an opportunity for you to take the Be an Awesome Ancestor Pledge, which is available on our website. This is the idea of us starting to think of ourselves like ancestors, and leaning into this daily practice is a way to honor future generations and also the people before us who have created really amazing opportunities. Check out the One Green Thing segment on Good Morning America, where I talk about food waste. I'll put that in the notes too of this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and get involved. Next slide, please. And here's our socials. Please feel free to follow us at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We'd love for you to be part of our community and continue to learn and grow from you.